Hello, everyone. Hello and good evening. My name is Charles. I am going to be your host for today. I'm one of the Tutlo tutors here on the platform, and I am part of our wonderful webinar team, which is, of course, why you see me here today. So, if you have met me before, it's great to see you again. And if this is our first time meeting, hi and hello to you. I hope you are doing well, whether it's our first time meeting or our 100th time together. It's great to be with you here today. For those of you who are here with us live, I would like to kindly ask if you could please let me know how our connection is by saying something in our chat. So if you can hear me and you can see me, please go ahead and type away in the chat. You can say hi, hello, yes, I can hear you. Maybe even as a fun little icebreaker question, let me know where you are joining us from today. Where are you currently located? So far, it seems that our connection is all right. Hello, ZB. Hello, Greg. Hello, Alexandra, Emma, Marta, Eva, Anna. I won't be able to go over all of your names, but whether you're here live or watching us in the future, it's great to be with you here today. I am joining you from my country of the Philippines. If you're unsure where the Philippines is, it's located here on your map. And here is a picture of what the Philippines looks like. We're an island nation, of course. So if you enjoy the beaches and the hot weather, maybe add the Philippines to your bucket list. Now, before we get into anything, I would like to quickly explain what to expect today, just so that you have at least an idea of what we will be spending our time discussing. Of course, with the title of our Creative Flair, we're going to talk today about creativity. We will look at what creativity looks like in the business world, go over some jobs that require creativity, talk about our own creativity, because, of course, whether we work in the most creative job in the world or a job that's not as creative, we all have some sense of creativity that we have to apply into our jobs. From making a pizza to designing a website, whatever it is, everything takes a measure of creativity. And of course, we'll talk about some vocabulary today connected to creativity, learn some idioms, some terms, and some phrases. That way, we are able to combine some real life learning with some vocabulary learning as well. So I hope that gives you at least a clear structure of today's webinar. And before we get into it, just a couple quick reminders. The first thing I would like to remind you on is how long we will be here. If this is your first time joining us for a webinar, it's great to have you. Our webinars are always around 30 minutes long. So we will finish today at about 8 p.m. So since we started at 7:30, we will do our best to finish within our 30-minute time frame to, of course, be respectful of your time. And along with that, I encourage you to use our chat during today's webinar. It's going to be open. You can make comments about what we're learning, participate in some activities we'll have, and even ask some questions, as we don't want to just make this a one-sided dialogue today. As I go ahead and make our lesson and our presentation going, never hesitate to use the chat today. So let's go ahead, let's get into it. Since today we're talking about creativity and what creativity can look like, let's simply start off by talking about what creativity actually is. A basic explanation of creativity is that it is the use of imagination or original ideas in something. So when we have the concepts of imagination and we apply it in something that could be our work, our life, our conversations, or even applying those original ideas we have into our businesses, into our schoolwork, into our presentations, whatever that something is. As long as we apply our imagination and our original ideas into it, it functions as creativity. Like I said, something as basic as maybe making your pizza for dinner or cooking your food, how you go ahead and organize your clothes in the closet, to how you function in your job and the things you have to do in your work, or the way you're going to give a presentation at school. Everything we can do, for the most part, offers some sort of creativity, even with how you go ahead and structure your workday, your schedules, and your planning. Everything takes a measure of that imagination or original idea. So we can all say that we have a measure of creativity that we use. Some people also say it's like a muscle. The more we use it, the better we get at it. Or we simply have to go ahead and be creative or imaginative in our thinking. Albert Einstein, a great smart man, said, "Creativity is seeing what others see and thinking what no one else has ever thought." Because if we're using imagination or original ideas, we are going ahead and probably seeing or doing things that have been there before, but we're taking a new spin on it, right? For example, if you think of fashion designers, people who make clothing, right? From shirts, pants, shoes, bags, watches, these have all been around for a long time. But the creativity is seeing the pair of shoes that everyone else can see and thinking of designing it in a way that no one has ever thought, right? It's a little bit of a measure of creativity in something like that. So I want to quickly go ahead and go over a few different jobs that require creativity every single day. And I want your opinion on, do you think this would be a job you would enjoy or you would not enjoy it? So it doesn't mean you would work here. Let's think, if you had the skills to do it, would you enjoy working there? The first one is an interior designer. So this is the person that designs what the inside of rooms or homes looks like. They go from the furniture, the color palette, the painting, the design of even maybe the paintings on the wall, whatever it is. Let me know in the chat, what do you think? Would being an interior designer be a job that you would be interested in doing? Or not so much? Me personally, I love interior design. I think it's fun. I wouldn't say I'm the best at it, but if I was qualified to do it, I think it would be quite a fun job to try, right? Why not? Right? Why not? So let me know. What do you think? Is interior design a job for you or not so much? Another job that would require a bit of creativity is being an author or a writer. And this is a perfect example of what Albert Einstein said, right? Creativity is seeing what others see and thinking of what no one else has ever thought before. Authors write stories, especially maybe, let's say, fiction stories that are creative imaginations put together, ideas original from the mind put together. Those are examples of books, and there are hundreds and thousands and millions of books written. Maybe there's a lot of books in the similar genre, but an author has to look at that genre and write something that has never been thought of before, or go ahead and take some elements but do a new spin on it. So it definitely does require a lot of creativity. I personally would enjoy that. I love books, so why not write about it, right? Now, a more modern take on being a creative in the workplace would go ahead and be a graphic designer or someone who works in graphic design, digital art. And with the way the internet is progressing and businesses like e-commerce moving online, or social media marketing or influencing, YouTube and content creation, graphic design is one of those things that, through the progress of our technology and the use of the internet, has also began to take off. So it would definitely be an interesting career to pursue because it hasn't been around for too long, but it definitely has a big future. Probably the most common job you think of when it comes to being a creative is being an artist. So someone who paints pictures for a living, or they paint homes for a living, or murals, whatever it is. These are all different kinds of expressions of creativity, not just painting, right? You can be a creative person outside of being an artist, but typically an artist would have to be very creative. They go ahead and take a look at a blank canvas, which is that thing that they paint on. It's called a canvas. And they have to think of a way to create a completely original painting because that's something that artists pride themselves in, that they can paint things that haven't been painted before. They can do things that haven't been done before. That's what an artist would be like. And of course, if we have our artists, another thing that's quite similar is a musician. So a musician is someone who has to, like what Albert Einstein said, look at a 3 to 4 minute time period and write a song that has not been done before. It would be a way to go ahead and pursue their creative flair in a way. Eva said, yeah, for sure, 100%. I heard the way that the designer could change the way of producing products. That's true, 100%. So again, all of these jobs are different examples of creativity, from designing homes, designing music, to writing your own songs, to writing your own books, being a graphic designer or an artist, and having those completely original concepts. It's such an interesting idea. So I would like to ask everyone here, please let me know in the chat. Would you consider yourself a creative person? So are you a creative person? And if so, how? What exactly would you do that would say that, yes, you are creative? So let me know in the chat. What do you think it would be? We could maybe give maybe a minute or so for people to think it through. What do you think? It doesn't mean you have to be the most creative person in the world or some sort of genius or next generational talent, but everyone is creative in their own way, like Alan is saying. So, what would you say? How are you creative? Or in what ways do you like to practice your creativity? For me, I love music. I've done music for over 10 years. So I would definitely consider myself creative musically. And yes, I would agree. Everyone can be creative in their own way. Some people are natural than others compared to different areas. And Greg says he agrees as well. For sure, 100%. That's a very good point. And as we continue into our next section, we're going to take the next 10 or so minutes and focus on different vocabulary terms. And as we go over these vocabulary terms, I encourage you, if you have a notebook or a way to take down some notes, this would be the perfect time to do so. As of course, you hear me say this all the time, if we've been in webinars or sessions together on the platform, it's great to have things up here, but it's even better to know how to use it. So if you're able to remember these notes, I encourage you. It is an important thing to do. And I see you all are engaging in the chat. Thank you. Thank you for making this a fun interaction. And Anna says she likes DIY. That's amazing. DIY is a very impressive thing to do for sure. So let's get into it. Let's talk about it. We'll start off with our first term today that is quite similar to creativity, and that is our cleverness. If we say that a person has some cleverness, it simply means the quality of being quick to learn things, understand things, and overall be intelligent. They have cleverness, or you can describe them as here, let me type in the chat for everyone, a clever person as well. So cleverness functions as a noun, right? He has a lot of cleverness. Cleverness evades him if he is not a smart person, but you can describe someone as a clever person. Like he is very clever. She is very clever. They are not so clever. Whatever it is. That is cleverness. Now, another way to describe someone who is very creative is as an inventive person. If you know someone who is inventive, they have the ability to design new things and think originally. For example, some businesses have a complete creative department, and these are the people who are, like the title of their job, exactly responsible for designing new things, thinking originally, and overall being inventive or having some ingenuity, as other people would say. Because simply ingenuity is the quality of being original, having those new concepts, those new ideas, or simply new ways to do things. Because you can still have creativity and ingenuity if you get inspiration, right? You can look at a design of something or the way the trends are going and what's becoming popular and take that concept and make it into a new idea or express it in a different way. Like what Einstein said, you look at something that everyone sees, but do it differently, right? That's where the ingenuity comes into play, or that creativity comes into play. They get those things that they see and they apply it in different ways in their workplace. And if you know someone, or if maybe you are one of these people that is really, really good at creativity and being a creative, they can describe you as a creative genius, someone who is exceptionally intellectual or have a lot of creative power. So if you are someone or you know someone who is very creative, very smart, they can be a genius, or in this case, a creative genius. You can have geniuses in many ways. You can have a sports genius, a money genius, whatever area. But if you describe someone as a creative genius, they are very smart and have a lot of creative power, right? These are the people who come up with the best business ideas, the best ways to go ahead and market on social media, creative ways to edit videos or creative photos, whatever it is. The people who are the top of creatives in the world can be described as geniuses. The same thing, if somebody is the top in smarts, top in money, whatever it is, you can describe them as a genius. But for today, they are creative geniuses because of their creative use of their imagination. And the imagination is just the faculty of forming new ideas in your head, right? I can think about going to Europe and traveling Spain, France, Italy, Greece right now in my head, and I use my imagination to do that, right? I'm able to form those ideas in my head. And in order to be a creative person, we have to take use of our imagination to some extent, right? So I encourage you, if you want to be a creative person or you are and want to be better, take hold of your imagination. Because when you have the great skill of forming new ideas in your head, it definitely does go quite a long way. Now, we're going to do some more phrases. And the next few phrases, we have three for today, are all known as what we call idioms. And they're all going to use the word imagination. The one thing to know about idioms is they don't have a literal meaning and can be quite confusing. So we have to know what these idioms mean. We'll start with our first one for today, and that is a figment of one's imagination. That just means something created by one's mind. Like if I say that business was a figment of John's imagination, it means that that business was something that John created in his mind. Or if I say that song was a figment of Peter's imagination, it means that song was created by Peter's mind. It is a figment of his imagination. Or someone can make up a completely imaginative situation, maybe a book, right? That book was once a figment of his imagination or her imagination. And the one thing to note, whenever we use something like one's, hers, his, we just have to change it to match the sentence appropriately. Like if we say Peter, we would say his imagination. Sarah, we would say a figment of her imagination, just to follow the proper grammar rules in those sentences, right? We want to stick with that as much as possible to make sure we follow the rules that we have been learning over the years of practice. So a figment of one's imagination is something created by one's mind. And if we leave something to imagination, it means that we won't describe all of the details of something. Like, for example, if you ask someone something and they just say, oh, leave it to imagination or leave it to your imagination, they are saying that because they don't want to describe something. So that's when you have to use your imagination to figure it out. Like, for example, let's say your family, a family member of yours goes ahead and brings you dinner, and you say, oh, what made you decide to make me food? And they say, oh, leave it to your imagination. So now you can wonder, oh, is it because they want to be nice to me? Do they have extra food? Maybe they have something to tell me later. And that's where their imagination kicks in. if you leave things to your imagination. But if we have those creative expressions, sometimes we can say things like by no stretch of the imagination, which is just used to emphasize that something is not the case. Like I can say, by no stretch of the imagination is he a millionaire. That's not the case at all. Or by no stretch of the imagination is he a lazy person. It means he is not a lazy person at all. So these three different expressions are just all creative ways of saying some simple things, right? If I could say, oh, don't worry about it, I can also say, leave it to the imagination. Or, oh, that was a figment of his imagination. I could have said he just created that. But as you progress in your learning, you're going to notice the higher you go, the more it's required of you. Because you're going to hear a lot of idioms in music, you're going to read them in books, hear them when you watch your TV shows. So I encourage if you can practice these idioms and these phrases that we've learned today, it will go a really long way. And let's go ahead and let's practice together. I've done a lot of speaking over the past few minutes, so let's get engaged again. On your screen, you have an incomplete sentence with two options. I need you to choose which of the two options is the correct one. And we'll start with number one. It says, he is a blank when it comes to creativity. Can you please let me know in the chat? Would we say he is a genius when it comes to creativity, or a genie when it comes to creativity? Let me know, and I'll give everyone maybe 5-10 more seconds if you'd like to give an answer. Again, this is just a great way to practice what we've learned today. And I see everyone answering. Thank you all for participating. Yes, it would be genius. Because remember, genius is someone at the top level. So the genius of creativity. A genie is a magic creature that can give you 3 wishes. If you've ever watched Aladdin, that would be an example of a genie, the blue guy. But now let's try one more. Let us blank something to imagination. Should we say let us keep something to imagination, or leave something to imagination? Can you let me know? Should we say A, or should we say B? I'll give everyone maybe 5-10 seconds again, just to give you time to think. What is the proper option here? Is it A, or is it B? Thank you all for answering. Yes, we would say B. Let us leave something. That's the phrase, not keep something, but we leave something to imagination. So our time is slowly running to a close. Before we finish, a couple quick reminders. Remember what creativity looks like. It's simply the use of your imagination and original ideas in something that you are doing, from your work to your everyday activities, to your school, to how you talk. And of course, remember how creativity can be used at the workplace through different kinds of jobs, right? Like being an author or a writer, an artist, musician, designer, interior designer, or even going ahead and looking at your job. There are different ways to apply creativity no matter where you work. And of course, remember the terms we've learned, the basic terms, as well as the phrases and idioms. And I again want to encourage you, if you took down notes or you're able to practice these terms, take some time to do so. You can go ahead and practice with your tutor on the platform, review them together. We do have lessons as well, specifically for creativity if you want to talk about it more, and that would be very beneficial for you all, because practice does lead to progress. We might not reach perfection, but we will always be better when we practice. So we've made it to the end, but we still have some time for some questions. So the last few minutes of our webinars are saved if you have any questions. So if you have a question, please go ahead, ask it in the chat. There's no wrong question. There's nothing to be afraid of. If you have maybe something you want me to explain a bit more, maybe you have just a question you'd like to ask, don't hesitate. Our chat is open for that, and our Q&A is there. And if you don't have any questions, please don't go anywhere yet. I would just love some feedback. So as we wait for some questions, there are 2 polls on your screen. The first one asks if you found today's webinar useful, and the second asks if you would like to join us again for another event like this in the future. We would just love to hear back from you, because this gives us some feedback of the topics you enjoy, the ways we're able to improve our webinars for you. because we want to continue to provide you with great topics of discussion. Like, for example, today we talked about business and our creative flair, but we could do topics like travel English, general English, idioms, phrases, and so much more. So thank you all for filling out the poll. I really appreciate it. It does help us here just get a better idea of how you have been receiving our webinars. And Alan's asking, do you consider yourself a creative person? Yes, I would. Again, like you said, Alan, everyone is creative to different capacities. I genuinely 100% agree with that. Some people are natural creatives in some areas compared to other people may have to learn more, what they're more creative in different areas. So I think we all have our special gifts and our talents. So I would say in my areas, I would be a bit creative for sure. So like I said earlier, it's music or maybe the way I love books. I'm able to have some great imagination from the stories that I read and things like that. So yeah, that would be my answer. Thank you for asking. And I don't see any other questions, so we'll go ahead and we will finish up for today in a bit. But before we do, I hope you can just check us out on our social media. You know, we're present on Facebook, LinkedIn, and YouTube. We always post content on our social media to keep you up to date about things happening here at Tutlo. We post some fun facts, some learning tips, some updates. So I encourage you, if you can check us out on our social media, I promise you won't regret it. Until next time, thank you for joining us. I hope you had a blast. And again, I hope you learned something and benefited from our time together. Take the time to practice what we've talked about today. Maybe go ahead and even think of how you can practice some more creativity in the workplace. Maybe that's through different ways of expression, in the way you do things. Maybe have a creative presentation next time you give one at work. Or maybe you're already a creative person and trying to have some new ideas. Creativity is, like we said, a muscle, something we develop when we see things that everyone sees, but we take it and we do things that other people have not expected. So until next time, everyone, I want to wish you all a fantastic rest of your evening, and I hope to see you again. Maybe we'll get that chance in a webinar again in the future or a lesson on the platform. Until next time, stay safe all, and goodbye for now.